Standing in front of Viscount Lacona, Lloyd inwardly admits it is indeed his property. He asks if they are saying they invaded their territory and angrily orders Lacona's representative to shut up, questioning if he can't see this is a conversation between nobles. He introduces himself as Lord Frontera's eldest son, Lloyd, but Lacona annoyingly tells him to call his father because he has nothing to talk about with him. Lloyd starts listing down rules and says the owner of an abandoned land can be decided by detailed rules once crops can be harvested in this land. He suddenly takes out a herb from the ground and congratulates Lacona, since he's the first person to see a crop grow in the history of Mara's wetland. He tells Lacona to leave their territory now, after which all the workers start cheering him. Later, Lloyd happily sees that the Mara's wetlands have actually turned into fertile ground and says he's going to proceed to the next step now. Meanwhile, Viscount Lacona infuriatingly orders his assistant to bring him the workshop survivor. Later, Lloyd wakes up with a nasty headache and Xavier mutters that his head is hurting to hearing, which Lloyd alarmingly realizes something. Lloyd remarks that everyone in the village has a nasty headache and all the animals refuse to drink any water, so the water is probably the cause behind this. He remembers how the main source of income for the Lacona estate is their mysterious dyeing technique and angrily curses Lacona. Meanwhile, the representative from the Lacona estate meets up with Arcas and tells him to hand over possession of half of the Mara's fields if they want the dyed water to be stopped. Arcas threatens to sue them and refuses to fall under their blackmail, so the representative cheerily starts leaving. However, he suddenly gets slammed by a door as Lloyd arrives and insults him. Angered, he challenges Lloyd to a duel but gets severely beat up by him. Later, Viscount Lacona mutters that they can make a scene out of this duel by claiming that Lloyd assaulted them. However, Lloyd guesses this will happen and tells the workers they're going to build a separate water supply for their village and procure the water from the rivers before it can get contaminated through Hammond. Xavier mutters that it can only be done as a temporary measure, but Lloyd declares that they'll earn from it over 100 times more. A few months later, Viscount Lacona is freaking out about what he should do, so Lloyd visits him and mockingly offers to save his dying business, hearing which Lacona slowly asks if he was the one who destroyed it. Lloyd cheerily tells Lacona that while setting up the water supply, they had to build a bridge to make way for the water to pass through. However, that bridge led to the limestone under the water to rise up, and that limestone floated down all the way to Lacona's workshop, where it destroyed the dyes he used. Shocked, Lacona angrily curses Lloyd and declares that he'll sue him, but Lloyd mutters that it'll take at least 2 years for a decision to be made and leaves. Sometime later, Lacona arrives, begging Lloyd to help him, so Lloyd tells him to sign a contract where he will pay the Frontera estate for the water. Lacona tries to argue that the price is too high, but Lloyd reminds him that he's the one who decided to sell water first. Arcas is surprised that they will have this much money coming in every month, as Lloyd remarks that the contract didn't mention an end date, so he will keep sucking off money from Lacona's oncoming generations. Arcas informs Lloyd that he's received some treasures from Cremo. Meanwhile, Count Cremo stares at the sea as a Giga Titan menacingly rises up. Arcas is attending to some flowers when Xavier informs him of what Lloyd plans. He mutters that if it was the old him, he would have handed over the land Lacona asked for it. Xavier assures him that he's a kind-hearted man, so Arcas thanks him, but admits that doesn't mean he's a good leader. He tells Xavier he doesn't need to escort Lloyd anymore since he can find a successor. While Xavier is walking back, he remarks that he never liked Lloyd for how he broke the wooden sword Arcas gave him when he was young. However, he's starting to slowly see him as a different person, and he hates himself for it. While they're sleeping, he suddenly wakes up and takes out an assassin. The next morning, Lloyd admits he expected something like that to happen, but says he doesn't need to prepare for it when a great knight like Xavier is by his side. Surprised, Xavier remarks that he hates himself for liking him, and Lloyd suggests that they depart for Cremo now, since the water pipeline construction should be done by tomorrow. Lloyd and Xavier are on their way to Cremo, and Lloyd suddenly wakes up and asks Xavier to teach him how to ride a horse. They start arguing before Xavier finally agrees and wonders if Lloyd has gone mad because of how he seems to be talking to himself. They later arrive at Cremo, where Count Cremo initially thinks Xavier is the Lord and angrily calls Lloyd a servant, ordering him to not interrupt them. Later, he apologizes to Lloyd and explains that he wanted to buy the treasures to set up mermaid treasures around the village to stop the Giga Titan from getting near them. However, that would disturb the ship, so he isn't doing that anymore. Lloyd cheerily informs him that there's still a way they can set up mermaid statues, inwardly remarking it can be done through pillars. Later, as Lloyd is checking the sea, a woman blushingly approaches Lloyd and says she has something for him. The girl, Christine, blushingly gives Xavier a love letter, believing he's Lloyd, and happily runs away. Angrily watching them, Lloyd asks Xavier why he just accepted the letter like that, hearing which Xavier realizes Lloyd has never been given a love letter before and consolingly reassures him. Infuriated, Lloyd starts working, declaring that he's going to make a lot of money. Count Cremo appears and informs Lloyd that they were able to get all the materials he asked for other than the volcanic ash, and it's a half-a-year journey to get to the volcano. Lloyd says they can do something else, remarking that he'll make Portland cement instead. He starts working on the cement, but 129 samples later, he mutters that he isn't able to get it right. Worryingly watching him, the fantasy beasts ask him to go out with them. He initially tells them he's busy, but suddenly remembers his pet from his past life, who was the only family he had. Lloyd suddenly embraces his pets, saying they're more valuable than this, and goes out with them. They develop a familial relationship, and Lloyd tries enhancing Belle, after which he surprisingly sees that she's received the skill Volcanic Eruption. The townspeople react with shock as a huge explosion occurs outside the city. Lloyd happily says it worked and remarks that with this, their cement problem is solved. They start working, and Lloyd remarks that first they will equip Belle with a giant sack to filter out volcanic ash. Seeing Belle exploding and creating the volcanic ash, Count Cremo remarks that he has to inform the king about Lloyd since they can't let such a talent stay hidden in a random village. They create the caisson, and Hippo sucks out all the water inside it before Xavier heads in to drive the friction poles into the ocean floor. After that, they craft a reinforcing bar frame with Bello's steel grunts and pour in the cement. Later, they set the mermaid statue on top of the pillar and have a party near it on several ships. Count Cremo happily tells the guests that Lloyd is the man behind setting up the statue in the middle of the water. However, the visitors accidentally believe Xavier is the Baron and start congratulating him. The Count hurriedly corrects them as the Jega Titan spots the mermaid statue and decides to kill it since there's only one. Lloyd approaches Xavier and asks why he's so silent, but Xavier doesn't answer. Lloyd asks if he's even listening, so he mutters that something is coming, and they alarmingly realize a Jega Titan is headed towards them. Lloyd quickly rushes to Count Cremo and tells him to evacuate, but the Count asks his knight, Sir Genovan, if there's anything nearby. When Sir Genovan declines, the Count tells him to not worry too much. However, they hear something, and the Count quickly orders for the anchors to be dropped so that they can sail away from the statue. Xavier informs Lloyd that it's too late, so Lloyd quickly tells him and Podon to go and cut the anchors. However, after doing so, Xavier realizes the Titan is much faster than they anticipated. The Jega Titan suddenly destroys the giant mermaid statue, wrecking the ship in the process. Xavier hurriedly realizes it's headed for the city next and turns around to tell Lloyd they must help, but he shockingly sees that Lloyd is trying to get away. Count Cremo urgently orders his men to rescue as many people as they can since it's really cold. The Jega Titan crashes into the city and starts wreaking the houses as the townspeople desperately flee. Xavier asks Lloyd if he's going to ignore the people in need, so Lloyd frustratingly says they're here to make money, not save people. Surprised, Xavier realizes this is truly the kind of person he is despite what he did recently. He says he's going to save the city and rushes towards the city even though Lloyd urges him to stop. The cannons don't work against the Jega Titan and it wildly charges towards the mermaid statue to destroy it, but Xavier suddenly rushes in to attack it. However, his sword bounces right back and the monster throws him away. It focuses on Xavier, seeing which he declares that he'll hold it here until every person in the city has escaped. Meanwhile, Lloyd, who is sailing away, mutters that he feels bad too, but all of his skills are good for construction. He suddenly realizes all of his money will be lost if the Jega Titan destroys the city. As the Titan is about to kill Xavier, Hippo suddenly crashes down on it and Lloyd arrives, furiously telling it to give him back his money. Xavier hurriedly tries attacking the Jega Titan, but he worryingly says he can't find a weak spot. He questions why he's feeling so relieved and wonders if it's because Lloyd is here. Over 2 minutes ago, Lloyd sees that Xavier's attacks aren't working and worryingly wonders what the hell it's made of to be this strong. He quickly uses measurement to examine the Titan scales and notices that there's ivory mixed in and realizes it's basically a state-of-the-art bulletproof armor since it has a triple honeycomb-like structure firmly intertwined on a molecular level. However, damaging the horn will be effective and they'll have to attack its stomach after that. He quickly signals for Xavier to attack its horn. Xavier rushes forward to strike, but he annoyingly shouts that it's not that easy before finally managing to slash it off. He rushes below the Titan to attack its stomach by using Blast Wave. However, it unexpectedly collapses on him, shocking Lloyd. If you're enjoying Lloyd and Xavier's crazy journey so far, make sure to like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.